It's about to start, and here I'll put on a little music. A little music that I know is safe to use because it's from the YouTube audio library. Here we go, youtube.com. Let's see, let's just search for pod safe music. So this is the playlist. Oh, this is a commercial. Let's skip it. So, Adventures in Himitsu. Free copyright safe music. Okay, so we're just going to leave that on for a little bit until folks show up in the chat, which reminds me I need to open a chat window. Alright, to get started, and it takes some supplements. So I'm taking taurine, ashwagandha, and potassium, and what's the other one? Potassium and magnesium. All right. Put this back over on the other monitor so I can see it. And now this music's possibly just a little bit too upbeat for me. I mean, not that the beat's too strong, but it's just a bit too happy.
Cardio burns fat, right? No. Cardio actually burns calories, usually in the form of carbs in the bloodstream that are then replaced with the very next meal that you eat and stored as more fat. This is why when you even eat low-calorie foods or run for an hour a day, it seems like you get softer and actually losing weight. There is a simple way to completely transform your physique, like
Go away, sir. Alright, anybody here yet? Oh, I should also start the day's Zoom call, although the guest won't be here until 2:30. So... Alright, Zoom. Alright, now I'm joining the Zoom meeting. There it is. Alright. Oh, I need a haircut. Let me tell you. Join audio. Alright. And back to the chat. Nobody here yet. So let's just sketch a bit. Alright, this music stream may be safe, but it is not doing it for me. Let's go pod safe music hard. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, you're just going to have to stop. That was not doing it for me. Ride Home Mule podcast pod safe music. Let's try this one. This is Mind's music. It's a little better. And there's somebody talking in the chat. It's Paul. Sup, KMO? Happy Friday. Not that means anything to folks who don't work office type jobs. Well, I don't do this this live stream Monday through Friday. Here, we'll pause this now. Now that there's someone here to talk to. Here, I'll drag the Zoom window over here. Hey, Paul. Good to talk to you, even though I can't see you. Alrighty, drag this off of here. Gonna have a guest today in about half an hour. Well, about 20 minutes now. And Paul, I think you're going to be really interested in this guest. He's looking to start an agricultural intentional community, and he had a lot of questions about the farm. I suggested that he talk to Albert Bates, but Albert Bates is in Mexico for the winter in a place with bad Wi-Fi, so he's going to talk to me instead. He has questions that I really don't know the answers to, but we'll talk. Alrighty. Well, let's get back to drawing. That's what this is supposed to be all about. Come on. There we go. All right. You looking forward to it, eh? I know you mean look. I know what you mean. No, goodness gracious, how big was that brush? Wow. Better. All right. So, Paul, I'm guessing you didn't get up and watch The Mandalorian first thing this morning, like I did. Let's see. I'll go back to the pencil. And yuck. Don't like any of those. No, sir. I don't like them. Nope. Wrong tool. Oh, that's interesting. That's much more primitive than what I had envisioned. This is supposed to be a gamer with a game controller, but it's gotten all blocky and weird. Yep, that's weird. No, I've been writing documentation and messing with databases. Boring as hell. I keep going outside and taking BRs. Oh, that's bong rips. Also, during lunch, I cut down a large limb from a cedar. I'm collecting them to make a fence around an orchard. That sounds useful. All right. What does one hold? I guess the fingers wrap underneath the controller? Oh, yeah, that's how it works. Yep. There we go. Are most controllers wireless now? I bet they are. Shouldn't put in that wire. Yeah, headed to Dinosaur Valley, SP, in the morning to see some dino tracks. What's the SP? SP. Huh. You'll tell me and I'll think, oh, of course. But it's not coming to me yet. What's on the hat? What do we got? Oh, State Park, of course. Duh. Dinosaur Valley State Park in the morning. To see some dino tracks. Cool. Dinosaurs. Lifelong passion of mine. Remember when Jurassic Park was the new, modern, scientifically informed vision of what dinosaurs are? And now they've changed many times since then. It turns out that T-Rex was probably not covered in feathers. Although many dinosaurs definitely had feathers. Alright. Well, I have no particular plans for this thing. Let's see it in action here. Nope, not what I meant. That's what I meant. It also popularized the raptor, yes, and enlarged the raptor. I'm pretty sure I saw the movie before I ever read the book. That's how it sits in my mind, anyway. All right, well, let's export that. And we'll call it Gamer Drawing Time Lapse. JP2 was a flop. You know, I saw it in the theater twice. And I liked it. Except for the silly gymnastics, high school gymnastics taking out a velociraptor. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, it's time to get back to where I once belonged. No, it's time to get back to Clip Studio Paint and the Covenant Karaoke Party, which ends today. Today is the final day that I'll be working on this. No matter where it stands, at the end of 3 hours, if not earlier, this thing will be complete. Am I in the right layer? Character tones, yes indeed. There we are. Yeah, there we are. All right. During the interview, are you going to be looking at the chat? Yes. Yes, I will be looking at the chat. I will encourage the guest to look at the chat, and I will discourage everyone from thinking of it as an interview, because I'm mostly going to be sitting here drawing and just chatting, and it's more of a hangout than an interview. All right, so this one there, like maybe that, and this one something like that. Right on, says Paul. So you're working from home and hitting the bong, eh? I could hit the bong all day long if I wanted to, but I can't draw while high. At least not very well. And I don't think it would help my workout any either. I'll tell you what really didn't help my workout. Yesterday I donated blood. Got up this morning, forgot all about the whole blood donation thing, wasn't thinking a thing about it, went to the gym, tried to work legs, and suddenly I remembered about the missing blood. No. Oh. Interesting. Huh. All right. Okay. Let's not get too caught up in little itty bitty distraction type things. You know, I think I'm gonna take this bony color thing up here to the shoulder. The blood donation burns calories. That's why the office is more productive, right? No bongs? I don't know. Is it more productive? I have a bong. I haven't used it in many months. I just use a little glass chillum. If and when Rose comes to visit, I'll bust out the bong for her. Or maybe get some edibles to get her going. Okay. First of all, it is for me. I have a crap internet speed, 12 megabytes down, like 0.5 up. Damn. What is that, satellite? That's pretty awful. Broadband through steel cables. Steel? Really? I don't think I've ever heard of steel as a conductor of information. Usually I hear of copper or fiber optic, even coaxial, like cable TV type cable. That's, I think that's copper. Let's see, what was I doing with this texture over here? Okay, keeping it simple. Gotcha. And let's deselect. Let's do this one in the same color. Hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, I must reposition myself. My neck's already hurting. The phone lines are so old they aren't copper. Wow, I didn't know they ever used steel for that. Weird.
Mr. K-Moso, hello.
Hey! How would you like to be addressed?
Ben would be wonderful.
Ben. All right. Well, Ben, there's only one person in the chat right now, but I think this person in the chat is somebody who is going to be very interested in what you have to say.
Well, I hope to have a fun conversation.
All right. Do you want to be? Do you want your face revealed to the world, or do you want to be a voice only?
I prefer voice only.
Okay.
Okay.
I will leave the Zoom window on the monitor that is not part of the live stream, but let me have you take a look at the chat. So that'll be on my YouTube channel. I'll get you a link here, and I'll post it into the Zoom chat.
I'm fairly restricted right now with my ability to coordinate some of that from my phone.
Oh, you're on your phone?
So I don't know how much I'm on my phone. I've got another PC behind me, so if you've got a link that I can click through email right and load something else up in the background, I could participate that way as well.
Oh, you're on your phone?
So I don't know how much
So that's me causing the double. Okay. Copy that and then just get rid of that. All right. So check your email. There's a new message coming your way.
All right.
All right. I've just now hit send. So when you launch this YouTube, when you click on the YouTube link and it loads on your PC, you'll want to mute the audio on the YouTube stream.
Sounds good. Yeah, I don't even have headphones plugged into that anyways. So.
Alrighty.
I purposely tried to not set any expectations around what your live stream was, so forgive my ignorance. But
oh, it's all good.
I want to keep my jitters down as far as being live streaming. But
well, as I say, there's only a few people watching and only one person listening or participating in the chat. Paul, let me ask you: do you want to join us by voice? Can you spare the time? So it'll be a minute before Paul can answer, I guess. There's a bit of a delay between what we say and what the people hear. Oh, and I see you've discovered the chat.
There we are. Yeah, I did want to say, long-time listener, first-time caller, nice to chat with you.
Likewise. It's fun to be able to say that, isn't it? Long-time listener, first-time caller?
Yeah.
Okay, fun. Paul's going to join us, so I'm going to send him the Zoom link. Let's see. And I'll let Paul introduce himself once he's on the line. I think you will agree that he may be more qualified to talk about the things you want to talk about than I am.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah, because it's
exciting talking to you too, KMO.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Let's see. Okay, Paul, got an email coming at you. Be just a second here. There you are. All right, send. So, Paul, email coming your way. And while we're waiting for Paul to join us, Ben, tell me about your situation. Where are you? What are you doing?
So I'm living up northwestern Ontario, Canada.
One of those, huh?
And pardon me.
I said you're one of those, huh? One of those Canadians.
I'm a lot of those. You have to specify. Oh, I'm from Kanakistan. That's correct.
Yes, the Sea Realm podcast audience has always been heavy on the Kanakistanis.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been listening to your podcast for a number of years. What pays the bills for me is some software development. I'm a newer family member and doing the thing to, keep some stability in life right now. But some friends in our homeschooling groups have been coming together to talk about living together with some more intention.
Right.
We want to expand on the relationships that we've been developing. We want to try and live more sustainably. We've been out in living more rurally for about 5 years now and practicing the homesteading, if you will, learning slowly about gardening and permaculture, chickens for eggs and that kind of thing. And just being in nature feels nice, and it's part of what we want to have our kids grow up around. But it's hard to bring community here. We had all these visions of, we'll be with the neighbors all the time, and we'll develop that deep sense of felt community here. But it's hard because you're not around people that think the same necessarily, or there's not enough that binds you together. And sure, you can have lots of friendly, wonderful neighbors here, and so many people willing to help. But it's hard to reciprocate that, actually, sometimes. People don't want to accept your help sometimes because there's that feeling of indebtedness.
Right.
So something about, bringing people together to share and to help and to live, and, family as well, having the idea of having like multi-generational families together so we can be closer to the grandparents and that sort of thing. And it's starting to call to a few of us, I think. So we're exploring.
Well, that is all, quality of life stuff, which I think is of utmost importance. And you've got, sounds like, sellable skills which don't require you to commute. Like you could do that from anywhere, right?
That's occurring currently, but I would have to explore that in more depth to make that a permanent thing. So the benefit of the chaos in the world right now is that I get to be the hermit that I've always dreamed of being. And sure, I can make that income from home right now, but that's changing, and there's a return to office kind of momentum in swing, which I would prefer not to participate with, but we'll see what the future holds with regards to that. But you're quite the work from home type as well. Like you've got your irons in a lot of these types of, call them entrepreneurial, self-sustaining type endeavors, right?
Well, yes. I mean, technically speaking, I am an entrepreneur, although I'm kind of grumpy about adopting that self-identification.
Sure.
I have some bad attitudes around entrepreneurialism just because there's a certain type of entrepreneurialism which is absolutely worshipped here in the United States. And I'm not convinced that this particular style of entrepreneurialism is really all that beneficial to the larger society.
What to say a positive aspect of it, something about being self-sufficient. Is that what you would call a positive aspect of it? You're your own boss, and you can shape your day, and you can apply your energies to the things that you're most passionate about, rather than have it be something to have to chase that from someone else's employment. It could be challenging.
Well, about half of my income comes from a single client. Like it's the organization that pays me to write and draw the comic strip. And while I am credited as the writer, everything that I write has to be approved before I start drawing. So let's see. Maybe Paul is waiting for a login code. Could be I didn't send him that. Yeah, passcode probably. Paul, if you're waiting on the passcode, it is the current year. Let's see.
Messing with databases. Paul's a fellow coder.
Yeah, but more than that, I'm not going to steal any of Paul's thunder, so I'm not going to tell you what he does in the world. Okay, he says be right back.
Comments.
Great.
Yeah.
Yes, he does do techie stuff for, I believe, the state of Texas. But more importantly, it's what he does from home, I think, that will be of interest to you. All right. So you get to mess with Clip Studio Paint here, which is an absurdly complicated art program designed by and for Japanese cartoonists, Japanese professional manga artists. In fact, it used to be called Manga Studio. And just a couple years ago, I think. Hey, is that Paul?
Yeah, I had to step away for a sec, but what's going on, guys?
Hello.
We're just talking.
Virtually meet you.
Cool.
So tell Ben about your setup down there. What have you got going on, Paul?
Okay, so I have I'm living on 11 acres with my wife and brother-in-law, and my folks live in a house on the property too. So on that 11 acres, I got 5 split where I'm working to basically make productive. The property is has been degraded for generations, so there's no topsoil and there's a lot of somewhat invasive trees. I say invasive, they're natives, but they're just in such numbers that it's hard to do anything with. So I slowly clear the invasive trees out and use the wood to build all kinds of stuff, and build soil with wood chips and compost. I got chickens that I like. I put hay down, and then I'll rake up the hay with the manure, mix that with wood chips, and make a pretty good compost, and then add that to the topsoil. So that's pretty much what I've been up to for the last about 5 years or so.
And what's your boring day job?
I'm a GIS specialist.
Which means what?
I manage geographic data and make maps and do spatial analysis.
For whom?
For the state of Texas.
Okay. It's what I thought, but I wanted you to say it rather than me record
Conservation
it.
agency.
Say that last part again?
It's a conservation agency.
All right.
Conservation agency. But no, we're wrapping up a project where Texas received like $200 million for the BP oil spill.
Uh-huh.
And so they spent like all of the money on restoration and property acquisition. So it's been pretty cool. It's been pretty exciting to see.
Ah, so the state of Texas made wise use of that money, huh?
Oh yeah. They did a lot of acquisition in the Rio Grande Valley, a lot on like the mid Texas coast, a lot of stuff on the coast, and then just really like fragile areas. So it was cool. But yep.
So you've got, I guess, a multi-generational compound. Are you all in one house? Do you have multiple buildings? What's the situation there?
No, there's 2 homes.
Okay.
On the and we have 2 different addresses and stuff.
All right. So when the FBI does come to raid your place, they will call it a compound on the news.
I don't know, maybe so.
Well, if there's multiple buildings and more than just a nuclear family, yeah, it's a compound. That's newspeak.
Mother-in-law suites. We're actually allowed to have a separate building. Can't have multiple dwellings. Is the kicker, I guess.
Huh. And why not?
Just zoning bylaws, that kind of thing. You need to get out into unorganized township.
Yep.
Less rules.
True that. So.
KMO, you. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to ask you. You spent some time living at the farm.
I did, but I'm not really well qualified to talk about it because I'm a bit of a curmudgeon. And on the farm, you know, the hippies are the old people with the money who make the rules. So I had kind of a bad attitude about the farm while I was there. And I don't think my bad attitude should really represent the place. What'd you say?
No, I appreciate the feedback. Actually, I want to hear all the dirt. I want to know why these types of places fail. I want to know what the problems are. Obviously, let's learn from someone else's mistakes, right? Mm-hmm. or what have you. But you were there like well after what they were calling the changeover.
Yes,
it was being run as the land trust, and it was a lot more organized when you were there.
It was a lot sleepier when I was there. You know, when they. So for those who don't know, we're talking about an intentional community in rural Tennessee, about an hour and a half south of Nashville. And a bunch of hippies from the Bay Area, they went on a bus caravan tour, just going around the country, listening to their guru, Stephen Gaskin, speak, and looking for some place to settle. And they found a place in Tennessee. Like everywhere they went, the realtors got together and said, don't sell to the hippies. You know, so they were fighting that current. But then they got to Tennessee. They found a farmer with a lot of land to sell who was willing to finance the sale. You know, he was willing to basically take their promissory note and give them the land. And they had a couple thousand people, I think, living on the property. And it's a very, very large property. And they're spread out over it, and they're actually farming, and they're calling it the farm. And in the early days, it was a full-on hippie commune. Like when you got there, you signed over all your worldly possessions to the leadership, and you came in with nothing. Like you contributed all you had. And so they lived like that for a while, but financially it wasn't really workable. Like they had this fantasy that, you know, they had a band on the farm. There was a fantasy that the farm band could be some big super group and make millions of dollars. And so they funneled a lot of resources into the band, and Stephen Gaskin would like go on tour with the band, and that never really worked out. And just the finances were just never really very solid or responsible. And the place was going to fail. It hadn't failed, but it was going to. And there was a bit of a revolution. Some of the younger, more charismatic, farm residents staged a bit of a revolution, and they overthrew Stephen Gaskin's leadership, although they did let him stay. And they announced to everybody else, okay, we're not a commune anymore. We're now an intentional community, and if you want to live here, you have to pay dues. And most of the people living there, you know, they didn't have jobs, they didn't have income. They really couldn't afford to buy into that situation. So at the changeover, they have other names for it, which, you know, are more descriptive of what happened, like the Exodus. They went from, I think, like 1,500 or more people down to about 150 people in a very short time. And so the land feels empty now, particularly since they're not really farming on it. And so after the changeover, there were a lot of businesses on the farms, and this is kind of like the collapse of the Soviet Union. A lot of these collective businesses got privatized. And so there's a catalog, like a mail-order catalog company, there's an electronics company, there's a soy milk dairy, and then there's also the midwifery school. And all of those got turned into little private fiefdoms, and people who live on the farm work there. They get paid a wage, but whoever scored that asset in the changeover, they're doing very well financially. And a lot of the the older hippies, they're retirement age now. They've received they're getting Social Security. A lot of them have received their inheritances from their dead parents. And so people have built some what I would call McMansions on the farm. I mean, very large, very nice, very bourgeois houses that wouldn't look at all out of place in lots of high-end suburbs. And a lot of young people who have heard of the farm and they remember its hippie glory days, and they have these romantic notions about living on the land. They make a pilgrimage to the farm, and they're shocked to discover that the old hippies don't want to farm, and what's more, they don't want young people who want to farm on the farm. For them, farming is the bad old days when they were starving. And they were also in the hippie commune days, they were required to be vegetarian, which is not agreeable to everybody. So now they describe themselves as Krogertarians, which means they go shopping at Kroger and they eat whatever they want. And so I was in the Eco Village Training Center, which is it's like a little slice of the old farm, still holding out there on the new farm. A lot of young people who don't have the money to buy into the farm, and to get status there, they can get onto the property through this back door of the Eco Village Training Center. They can sign up for an apprenticeship, come in, stay there for a while, learn organic gardening and alternative construction methods like cob and straw bale and that sort of thing. And while they're there, they're physically on the farm, they can walk around and talk to people and start making connections. And, when their apprenticeship is done, there's a possibility that they can find some place, some way to stay on the farm. And, I saw it happen successfully a couple times in the year that I was there, or the 2 years that I was there. But it doesn't work out for most people. And most people, they do a little sort of intentional community pilgrimage going from west to east, and they stop at Dancing Rabbit in Missouri. They stay there for a bit. Then they come to the farm, and they stay at the farm for a while. And then they head east to, Acorn, the Acorn community. So, it was great for me as a podcaster. I got to just sit in one place, and lots of people with interesting life experience and knowledge came to me, and I got to interview them. But I also got to see a lot of idealistic and really unrealistic young people come through thinking, they were going to come to the farm and live off the land and be part of this, very egalitarian community. And, they just missed the boat by a couple decades. That's over. But
what were you hoping to get by going there?
I was invited to go there, and I had nothing else going on, really. I was at a very low point in my life. And for me, that situation was a godsend and a lifesaver. It basically just gave me some structure and something to do and a place to call home. And, anyway, I've been jabbering for a while, but that's my experience of the farm. Oh, the last thing I want to say, though, is Albert suggested we talk to Doug Stevens. Doug Stevens, part of the image that the farm puts out now, like if you go to the farm and you get a tour, Doug Stevens will take you around, and the last place you'll go is this community meal building, and he'll show you a slideshow of the history of the farm, and the slideshow is like 9/10 the hippie commune days and 1/10 what's happened since then. What's happened in the 30 years since then. So part of their self-presentation to the world is their old hippie commune days, which I found objectionable because those days are over, and the values that that motivated that original setup are not really in operation there anymore, as far as I can tell. So that's my cynicism about the farm. But let me just emphasize...
It should be more like it was back in the day. Is that...
I don't know about should. If they had carried on in that same mode, that community wouldn't exist anymore.
Right. That's the sense that I got, too.
Yeah.
I'm really curious what's missing from the current setup.
Just an acknowledgement of their current economic reality.
Said, hey, KMO, pardon me?
I would say just an acknowledgement of their current economic reality and political reality. That, you know, it's just like every place else. The people with the money make the decisions.
If you were brought in as a consultant, and they said, "Hey, you know, we want to bring on new members. We're willing to change things in the way that we structure things to accommodate, you know, some more idealistic thinkers again." Maybe wrong words. What kind of feedback would you give them if they said, "Hey, you know, we're willing to change some things, give you a seat at the table. What could we alter to make this a better place for you?"
Well, for me, it was fine because I didn't have any grand ambitions about, you know, living in a hippie commune. But for the young people that are constantly coming to their door, I mean, there's just a certain. It's like if you live in New York City, you will, no matter what your sentiments are, you will very soon learn how to say no to panhandlers. Because if you don't, then you've just abdicated your right to ever have any money on your person. Because there's so many people with their hands out. If you give money to everybody who asks, you just won't have any. And if you accept everybody who shows up at the farm gate, you know, looking to live the hippie lifestyle, yeah, you know, you just can't. Practically, you can't. Or you'll be right back to that, you know, 2,000 starving hippies and no money scenario that they staged a revolution to get past. So I acknowledge that some of the things that I found distasteful about the place are really pretty necessary adaptations that they've had to make. Alrighty. Paul, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here. Like I said, I'm formatting documentation for.
Gotcha. Well,
yeah, I'm listening, man. You know, I guess my question to Ben would be like, who do you envision coming to your intentional community? Would it be family or good friends?
Yes, good question. I don't know. Family and friends. That's a key part of like what we're seeing right now. Is that it'd be great to get some family living closer. There are a couple families that are friends that would probably be a fit for something like this. That, you know, we're the ones talking about this right now. Beyond that, I don't know. We're talking with someone who's running a church that want to do a larger program, let's say, next to a regenerative village of this sort, let's say. And they have the ability, it seems, to collect funding to do a startup for something like this, I guess. So it would be a very different model from what I'm reading as far as, you know, salvaging what you can and going by your, you know, and pulling things together as you go. It seems like there's an opportunity to start a little bit bigger. And then the questions come of, you know, if you're taking government funding for a project of this sort, you know, there's always strings attached, right? So I don't know. Still lots of questions. Still lots to be explored right now. Yeah.
Right. Are you familiar with Dmitry Orlov's writings?
Not his writings, but I've heard him through the KMO show.
Well, yeah. Well, he's written a lot about intentional communities, and he been like a publishing press through Amazon or something. He made so good, but a couple of summers ago, he worked with this guy named Greg Jeffers, who authored this book called Prosperous Homesteading. And Greg and his family have a very successful homestead. They make like YouTube videos and stuff, but it's all about how to go about it and how to be successful at it. And he says some things in there that may hurt some people's feelings, but I think it's probably pretty right on. I've been trying to follow it. Some of the main advice is, have a nest egg, don't go into debt, purchase things outright. Those are, some things not everybody can do, but I think it's good advice. But yeah, I mean, from what I read from Orlov, family is really the best way to go as far as an intentional community, because there's not like a bind that keeps people there and keeps people honest and trying to fit in, that's built into the system, and that familial tie kind of does it.
One of the things I was recognizing was that through some of these intentional communities, the community is already established via some spiritual leader or some other vision and purpose. And then the idea is, well, let's take the next step and go, live better or whatever, live in a better way. But what they didn't have to do there was, bring all the people together underneath some common vision, right? There's enough of a cohesion, I guess. So I could see, like what you were saying, the family being what brings people together and, has those strong relationships in place first. It seems like you would need that, or I guess it's a concern to how do you build the community as well as build everything else around you at the same time, right? It might seem risky. I don't know.
Yeah, in my opinion, I don't think it'd be risky to try to organize it around a religion, because it might be thought of more of like a cult, at least maybe in the United States. That might turn people off. I don't know.
Well, you'll be called the cult no matter what you do, probably, by some people. But yeah, obviously, the structure of how you're to be coming together, who's making the rules, what are they, what do you come in with, what do you leave with, right? How much are you risking by attempting this? All important questions, I think.
Yeah.
And yet, would you agree, though, that you would need to establish some common vision, though? Like, you can't have everyone doing their own thing. There would need to be some set of rules. There would need to be some set of shared responsibilities that keep people, that keep the relationships together and intact. Does that make sense?
I absolutely agree. Yeah, I don't know how to do that though.
Hey, me neither. KMO, give us the answer.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
In the current economic milieu, I'm afraid the answer is whoever puts up the money to keep the place afloat, they make the rules. Because the whole project doesn't continue without their ongoing support and endorsement. Which is, kind of like the rest of the society. It's not pretty, but that's how it works. And just getting off grid, or getting out away from the centers of population doesn't really change that. So I think my biggest, concern would be, unless your ideology somehow makes money, your ideology really needs to be subservient to, or at least take a back seat to whatever it is you do to keep the place under, your management.
Yeah, it's like the place has to not only be cool and kind of interesting, but like once people are there, they have to be able to do something, and
Yeah. So the community that seems to have found the right balance there is Acorn. They have their on-site businesses. They have their their hammock making business, and or Twin Oaks. Twin Oaks is the one I'm thinking of. Acorn is their satellite community.
Twin Oaks? Where are they based out of?
They're on the East Coast. They're in Maryland or Virginia or somewhere around there.
Have you heard of the Civium project?
I have not.
So I dropped the name to you once upon a time.
Well, then it's a trick question, because yes, I
Hall.
have heard of it, and I didn't make a permanent memory, I'm afraid.
No, I don't know if I mentioned this project specifically.
Oh, okay.
Jordan Hall is, I don't know how you describe this guy, a future thinker. Interesting fellow, lots of interesting things to say, plugged into some interesting circles, and seems to be championing a certain way forward. And they're calling this the Civium project, which it is. I'm going to do a disservice to try and say too much about it, so you should probably just research it yourselves if you're interested. But the basic gist is these types of communities, not with the model of, hey, how can we turn the land to be productive and selling trinkets or baskets or food or whatnot. Comparing it, calling it more of a smart village.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the future thinkers crowd out of BC now are making a go of this, and they're causing some excitement in their startup project right now.
What's the project again?
Idea being, sorry.
What's it called?
The Smart Village.
Okay.
This is out of BC,
Mm-hmm.
and their model seems to be a little bit more of a blend of the, live in nature, live a right lifestyle, but still have access to, the maker space or the creative studio where you can do your podcasts and such, and your digital work. And the idea being that, yeah, you'd be still connected to the rest of the world. You'd still be plugged in and, producing things for these digital economies, I guess. And having these things start up, more distributed, working together, collectively coming together for projects, I guess, competing with the outside world, if you will, not trying to replace it with their own internal society.
Have you ever
I'm missing lots.
Have you ever thought of using a like an urban space rather than a rural space, like maybe redeveloping a rundown town or neighborhood in a city, and all the amenities are there already. I mean, once you have enough space, you can grow whatever you want in it. Real estate may be cheap.
Yeah, that's interesting. You see these videos on YouTube of the, hey, I bought a ghost town or whatever, and like apparently in Italy there's tons of these little rundown villages that you could jump into. It's an exciting idea for sure. Yeah, I guess. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, there's a lot of them in Texas where there were farming communities and anymore, so they're just like abandoned. So I don't know. I always thought there's this one. It's like it's about 30 miles southeast of Waco, Texas, in Marland. But that already has a bad connotation with with this discussion. But it's called Marland, and it was an old industrial town that like all of the factories and textiles or whatever were there, closed down. So houses are super cheap. It's been losing population. It's pretty close to a metro area, like something like that, where you have amenities and access to a major place, but you're still kind of tucked away and in a rural area. I mean, it might be like the best of both worlds, perhaps.
That's an interesting one. There seems to be a draw to the water for a few. It seems like we're still really early here. If there's lots of little lakes around here, so if there's a possibility to be really close to the water, I think that's going to be a big draw. And there's the ideas of there's some old schools actually, like there were like these rural schools that were there's one in particular on the water, and one of the ideas is to like approach them to say, you're not doing anything with this salt to us. We'll continue it being a school, our own type of school, and a whole bunch of other things. So I like the thinking for sure. Right now, it still seems like there's a call to be, quite away from the major rural or urban centers.
Where in Canada are you?
Northwestern Ontario. Ever been?
No, I've left Texas a handful of times.
Yeah, never been to Texas.
Come
Well,
on, everybody.
I'll just break in here and brag and say I've been to both Texas and Ontario.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
Isn't Texas the new California?
Lots of Californians are moving there.
Yes, that's true. Especially to Austin and San Antonio.
Add the tease.
Well, that's going to be a recurring joke in the next chapter of Geb, because the next chapter is going to take place in Los Angeles, and just one of the recurring jokes is, what about so and so? You heard from him recently? Oh yeah, he moved to Texas.
That's funny.
Yeah, because the rich Californians are happy to pay lip service to woke slogans, but when it comes to actually paying money for their taxes, they think they are already paying enough, and they might be right. They're already paying quite a bit.
Yeah, it's definitely driving up suburbanization, and there's a lot of gradual ecology and stuff out here. Where I'm at in between Austin and San Antonio, there's a whole line of these they're like giant springs that what's the word, artisanal?
Artisanal, yeah.
Artesian wells?
Artesian, right.
Yeah, they're artisanal springs. Yeah, they've been capped, but there's Barton Springs Pool, there's the San Marcos River, there's Palmau Springs. That was, but anyway, so the aquifer's like super sensitive, and there's all kinds of endangered species, and developers are covering up the surface.
Hey Paul, what's your vision for what you're trying to build there? You're happy on the land that you're on? You're staying there, or do you have ideas of something a little bit bigger?
Yeah, I do actually. I got so what I'm trying to do right now is get out of debt. I ran up a ton of student debt 10 years ago or so, and so I also have a mortgage. So once I get the mortgage paid off, the student debt. I'm hoping that the homestead that I have right now will be able to generate some income, maybe supplement what I'm doing, keep saving, and then me and some buddies want to get some more property in South Texas or probably near the coast, something like that. It'll be better growing and better, better agriculture. But maybe 10 acres, maybe less, with some buddies, and then we'd all have our own little plot there, and it would probably just be like a fish camp or place to have fun at, because it would be close to the beach, and then you could probably do whatever you wanted out there too. So that's my
You think moving out there, or just having it as a shared property to visit?
Yeah, it'd just be fun. It'd just be like a weekend place or something.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give this place up. It's like a family property, so I'm just going to keep trying to make it as productive as possible. Keep trying to get out of debt. Once I'm out of debt, like maybe I stack cash. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, Dad. We took on a fixer-upper, and it's been nice getting my handyman skills up and learning. It's like working 2 jobs, right?
Oh yeah, I heard what you were saying earlier about having the opportunity to be a hermit because of COVID.
Mm.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
for me, I went into this like super neurotic. I got to get everything done because I'm gonna have to get back to work type of thing, and so like I was working around the clock, and like it just never happened. It's just like, wait, okay, I can chill out, I can slow down.
Yeah. It feels like this is the first year in 5 years where I actually got most of my projects done before the snow flies, and it feels kind of nice.
Oh,
But
is it snowing?
Yeah, we've got a little snow here now, and the ground's freezing. We'll try and get the snow guards on the roof before the real snow comes.
It's in the mid-80s here, bud.
Pardon me?
It's in the mid-80s here.
Yeah, come for a visit.
Yeah,
Slightly different.
Yeah, come in February.
Yeah.
Not only do you see the worst of the winter, but you also see like the worst of its impact on everybody's psychology.
Sure.
People are happy for a white Christmas, but come that third big snowstorm in February, and people are out shoveling again, and they're nursing their wounds from having slipped on the ice. And it was last January when I fell and slipped on the ice when I said, I'm out of here. Forget this place. I'm moving to Puerto Rico. And I took my preliminary trip to Puerto Rico just to check it out, make sure I wasn't selling myself a fantasy. And got back, and I'm making ready to get out. And then comes COVID.
Awesome.
Yeah. Then comes the lockdown.
So you're still in Bellows Falls then?
Yeah, I am in Bellows Falls.
Yeah.
When it's come down here, when people move down here, they don't realize how hot it is during the summer. And you say like the winter psychology, we get that here with summer because it'll be like 100 degrees for 2 months straight with no rain. And it's just like really tough sometimes to be outside for a long period of time.
I lived in Australia for about 6 months, and I got there in November, which is spring for them, and it was so beautiful and gorgeous. I said, oh, well, we're staying. Let's stay here. And so we got a place to live, and then the real Australian summer hit, and we never left the house, really.
I can handle the cold. I can't handle the heat.
Yeah, the heat's hard.
To what you were saying about like the winter dragging on, I was working out of California for a few years and would come home to visit, and it was always nice. You had the Christmas spirit and what have you, and you got the taste of the snow, so you'd visit for a few weeks. Like, yeah, that was my taste of winter. And you go back to California, and then you carry on, and then like you said, a few months later, into March, where you're wearing shorts already, California, whatnot, and you keep hearing stories of back home where, yet another snowstorm and still 2 feet of snow everywhere or whatever, and you remember visiting during the winter, but that was 2 months ago, and like, wow, it's still
happening.
Still a long winter. I would still rather that than the heat. I melt in the heat. I can't handle it.
A few years ago, I went to LA from Maryland, and I went in January. And Maryland was brutal cold, lots of snow, and I went to Los Angeles where it's 85 every day year round, or 82 or something, just totally comfortable. Like, yeah, you could walk around naked if you wanted to, And you might be embarrassed, you might be uncomfortable socially, but physically you'd be quite comfortable regardless of what time of year it is. And yet you never really get hot. That was Los Angeles in February, and it was just like heaven. But I realized that it comes with, California and all of its problems. And even the climate is a problem for them, with all the fires. So you've made several mentions of chickens. I really enjoy keeping chickens. It's very difficult to protect them from predators, though, particularly if you're an irresponsible stoner who doesn't, get the chickens in and get the door closed right at sunset. Because if you miss it by just a few minutes, man, the foxes aren't going to miss it.
We've lost a flock or two. Yep. You keep chickens now?
I do not. I live in an apartment now.
Oh, okay.
And I love it. I don't want a homestead. I don't want a farm. I don't want... Well, basically, I like my apartment. I like not shoveling snow. It's very nice. All right. So, I'm just about done with this piece, I think, until, the only thing that needs to be added is their singing. It's karaoke, so what song are they singing? It's got to be something incongruous and ridiculous.
Hey, so KMO, I think I'm probably going to duck out.
All right, fair enough.
But thanks very much for the time. Paul, it was nice chatting with you, and maybe we can...
great chat with you.
Maybe we can connect over email via KMO if you're down for that.
You both have an email from me already. The last thing I sent to Paul, I sent to the both of you.
Oh, sweet. Cool. Well, thank you, gentlemen. It's been nice, and best to you both.
Yeah, pleased to meet you.
Have a good one.
Likewise. Bye.
Alrighty. So, Paul, how about your chicken defense? How's it go?
I have like 3 different runs that they can go into,
Uh-huh.
and I don't let them out. We have a big problem with coyotes and foxes and raccoons and you name it. So they stay put, but the whole area is probably like 50 by 25 or 30, so there's plenty of room for them.
But you haven't lost any in a while? There's...
Not to varmints. It's just been natural causes. I lost one this summer. I raised 5 chicks this spring, and then one of them turned out to be a rooster. They were the Spice Girls, and then one of them turned out to be a rooster, Posh Spice. So now that's Spicy P.
Spicy P.
Running the roost.
Yeah, that'll happen. You order hens, and pretty easy to miss the little cockerel when they're getting sexed.
Yeah, but he's a fun addition. He's giant.
Oh yeah, what breed?
It's called a Lavender Orpington.
Lavender Orpington. I've heard of the Orpington. I've never heard of the lavender. Lavender is purple.
Yeah, he's like a smoke color.
Huh.
It's pretty. Yeah, and I'll probably get like 10 more this spring.
So with the Covenant grunts here, I consulted some visual reference on day 1, and since then I've just been winging it. And people who've come in who have no knowledge of Halo see them as sharks.
Well, they kind of look like sharks in the game too. They got the thing on the back, the armor.
Alrighty. Well, you know what? I'm going to hit save. And then until I think of a song that they're all singing, I think I'm done with this for now.
You've never heard Bloodhound Gang?
Bloodhound Gang. I don't think so. Let's see.
Okay.
Is that a song or a
For
group?
some reason, I could. It's a group, the Bloodhound Gang. That they have this fun song called "Bad Touch." I don't know. For some reason, I see these guys totally singing that together.
Okay. So I'm looking up the lyrics right now. Haha, well now. We call this the act of mating, but there are several other very important differences between human beings and animals that you should know about. I'd appreciate your input. Sweet baby sex is a Texas drought me, and you do the kind of stuff that only Prince would sing about. So put your hands down my pants, and I'll bet you'll feel nuts. Yes, I'm Siskel. Yes, I'm Ebert. And you're getting 2 thumbs up. You've had enough 2-hand touch. You want it rough? You're out of bounds. I want you smothered, want you covered, like my Waffle House hash browns.
And the chorus is what they'd be singing, right?
Okay, where's the chorus here? Is it you and me, baby, ain't nothing but mammals? So let's do it like they do on the Discovery Channel. Do it again now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. But they're not mammals.
That's the irony. That's what's funny about it.
I got it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I can have several different, dialogue balloons. I can switch them out. So let's try that one. Let's see. Let's go.
Whatever you want to do, man. I'm just being silly here.
Well, the silly is what I asked for. So let's see. First, this is black. So Ed's not on the chat with us today. Don't know why.
I got offended because Les was talking about his daughter.
That was fairly offensive stuff, I have to say.
Yeah, good on you for saying something, right?
But Les hasn't been back since that day.
I noticed that.
Yeah. So I don't want to dwell on it, but
No.
I am a parent of kids roughly her age. Let's see. Let's get some lyrics going here. You and me, baby, ain't nothing but mammals. So let's do it like they do on the Discovery Channel. Okay, I'm thinking that's got to be 2 different dialogue balloons. Paste. You're gonna make me type it out? Okay, fine. What's going on here? Oh, I see. There. All right, so we can make this smaller, I think. There we are. So you and me, baby, ain't nothing but mammals. Let's put mammals on its own line. Normally in typography, you don't want a single word on its own line because it's called an orphan. But in comics, you have to break some of those rules or have a lot of dead space in your dialogue balloons. Alrighty.
And going back into the office sucks. Like, all the lights are turned out. There's, like, nobody there usually.
So
it's pretty weird.
Yeah, the one benefit of, office life is that you have some social contact.
True. But, I probably wouldn't go back if there were a lot of people there. So.
Not real tight with your employer or fellow employees there?
Well, it's just we're getting hammered by the pandemic still, man.
All right. But I mean, in good times or normal times.
Well, my position is kind of weird. I'm an oddball because I'm in IT, but I'm a geographer, and so they try to pigeonhole me into IT. Like, okay, you're going to do GIS for IT. It's like, okay, well, what does that mean? And they can never define it. So I just kind of do whatever I feel is helpful.
Well, it's not a bad way to go.
I get a lot of autonomy because nobody really knows what I do, so it's fun.
All right. I'm going to put an exclamation point here, even though there isn't one in the lyrics that I looked up.
No, but they're screaming it, right? Because this is a karaoke bar.
Yes, it'll certainly be out of tune. Who knows? You know, maybe these Covenant grunts. This is what they live for.
Yeah. It's Friday night at Hot Wings, and they got karaoke there.
You know, and they know that they can die at any moment. Not you know, when they're off duty, but when they're doing their thing. All right. There. And this little trick. So Rose has pointed something out to me repeatedly, and it's that my drawing live stream is a little weird because most of the people who tune in don't really care so much about drawing. You know, they're not. They're just here to hang out with KMO and talk about whatever. It's kind of hard to attract the right audience that way.
Yeah, but then when someone's like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "Oh, I'm watching an artist do live stream." It makes me seem all sophisticated. And shit. Right. So, and plus, it's a great cover at work too. Like, oh, that's pretty innocent. He's just interested in an artist.
Art.
Like,
yes, nothing subversive there. Artists never subvert the dominant paradigm.
That's what I'm thinking. I thought of a funny elevator pitch for this live stream if you want to hear it.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. It would be if, wait, let's see. Oh, yeah, okay. If Howard Stern and Bob Ross took some acid and had...
Howard Stern and Bob Ross took some acid and what?
Had a baby.
Had a baby. Acid baby. I'm sure there's been more than a few conceived under the influence. All right. So, you and me, baby, ain't nothing but mammals. So we're going to put nothing and mammals in bold. Let's do it like they do. Where should I stress in this second one? So let's do it. Do it. That'll be a stress. Like they do. I think that should be stressed as well. On the Discovery Channel. And it's not Spanish. We don't need an upside down exclamation point. I don't know where that came from. There we go. All right. I'm going to say okay. And now, time for the signature. Oops. And so we'll do that down here in the corner. Actually, nah, it's fine. Just do it in here. Whoops. Well, shoot. I zoom in and I see all the imperfections. I got to keep working. Let's see. It's the problem with digital artwork. You can just zoom in all the time and say, oh, well, that needs fixing. That needs fixing. All right, here we go. For real this time.
If you export it at a lower DPI, maybe you can't see the imperfections.
Right. Can we put a drop shadow into all this? Let's see, layer. How about this? Let's duplicate it. And let's see. Nope, not like that. Well, maybe I'll do it like that. Let's see.
So on my 12 megabyte, I'm able to stream TV, do this conversation, and VPN to my job, and it's still running smooth.
Wow, well, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
All right. Paul, do you watch The Mandalorian?
Man, I usually just watch the TV that Abby watches.
Yeah.
We watch Survivor. We watch The Connors. We watch this show that comes on MTV called The Challenge. You ever seen it?
I have not.
Yeah. Oh, you haven't?
No.
Oh man, it used to be called the Real World Challenge.
I remember a few seasons of The Real World from the 90s, but I haven't really followed it since then.
Well, I don't know. It lives on through this challenge game, which is a lot of fun. We've been watching it for like 15 years, so
wow.
It has like a running of contenders, and you kind of get to watch the soap opera progress as they compete or whatever. But anyway, oh yeah, did you watch that on HBO Lovecraft Country?
I did, and I have mixed feelings.
What do you think? Oh,
well,
okay.
I didn't much care for the whole kill Whitey aspect of it.
I don't know if I got that from.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. How many sympathetic white characters were in there? How many humane or just even human white characters existed in that?
I don't know, man. I wasn't fixated on white people in the show. Like, maybe they're just telling a story. White people don't have to dominate.
Well, it's not that, white people aren't the main characters. I'm happy that the main characters are who they are. It's just every single white person is evil. Not just like morally indifferent or compromised by a bad society or anything like that, but just straight up evil. Cops in particular.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that, man.
Wow. I mean, for a time, you think maybe Christina is going to be this nice person, but really she just wants to kill Atticus or whatever his name is.
Some of the themes that they're talking about, I've never really seen on TV before.
Oh yeah.
Like, she puts on the white skin and she just isn't a different. I hope I'm not spoiling that shit.
Oh, spoilers. Let's see.
For the one other person on the screen, but yeah. Anyway, they were talking about things that I hadn't seen on TV before, and also the Tulsa Massacre of the Black Wall Street. Like,
Yeah.
most people heard of that.
Yeah, I heard a radio story about that a few years ago, so I knew of it. You know, I knew it wasn't made up when I was watching the film or watching the series.
Yeah.
But it was very well done. The effects were well done. I mean, the worst of the Kill Whitey episodes was the character who ended up having blue hair, you know, mother of the young girl who would draw comics.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, you know, she has her sort of hallucinogenic, here, go live in these other worlds in this sort of time-dilated way, and you know, get 100 years worth of experience in 2 minutes sort of thing. And, you know, we just get this blue-haired black woman just killing white men, killing white men, just, you know, chopping them up every which way, killing cops, just, you know, the total revenge power fantasy, which I can get, and I could even get behind it if they had at least, you know, one white character who was just morally neutral, even. Just one white character who wasn't full on just fuck you evil.
I'm trying to see, was there a character like that?
No, I mean, I was waiting for that character. I was thinking maybe, you know, maybe it would be one of the two beautiful young white people, but they turned out to be just one beautiful young white person, and she turned out to be pretty evil.
Yeah. That was the last show that I really liked that we've seen.
But anyway, I fully admit that it was a very well done show, and not only did I watch all of it, but I paid for HBO so I could watch it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the Walking Dead, the kids show, I forgot what it's called. I just call it Walking Dead Kids Edition or whatever.
I haven't seen that yet.
That's gotten pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm starting to like it, man. Like, the characters at first I didn't really like, but now they're pretty good.
I watched The Queen's Gambit on Netflix. Totally fictional story about this brilliant young woman chess player who was raised in an orphanage and was addicted to tranquilizers and booze. But a brilliant chess player.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really compelling. It's very well done.
Say the title again?
The Queen's Gambit.
The Queen's Gambit. Okay, I'll have to remember that. We watched the first 2 episodes of this show called The Great. I think it's on Hulu.
Uh-huh.
It's supposed to be like, what was her name? Not Alexander the Great. Catherine the Great.
Uh-huh.
And, yeah, anyway, it's pretty crazy.
So the Bloodhound, it's the Bloodhound Gang? Is that the name of the group?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And we'll just export it at 100 dpi right now. All right. So let's share this on Twitter for the moment. We'll go Tweetar. We're going to tweet at the world. So, how do you spell covenant? Is that it? Alexa, how do you spell covenant?
Covenant is spelled C-O-V-E-N-A-N-T.
Sweet.
I'm using 144 pixels on YouTube, so I can't read the text. KMO, you mentioned Rose earlier. Is she planning to visit you soon?
Well, nobody's going anywhere soon, but eventually.
Oh, true. Right. True, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. Look at that. That's not going to work. It did not output the text. All right, so let's save all of that. And just refresh. And I have to go back to Clip Studio Paint and output again. PNG. Yes, replace it. And render the text, please. All right. Let's do that again. All right, there we go. 3:46, almost time for the 7th inning stretch.
Do you record till 4
5.
or 3?
Yep, it's 3:45 now. So I've got an hour and 14 minutes left to go, but I'm going to take a little break at 4 o'clock. A little stretch. All right. So you're 1 or 2 hours behind me. You in Central Time?
Yeah, it's 2:45 right now.
Okay.
I get off at 3:30. So that's usually when I unplug. It being Friday, I probably won't plug back into a computer till Monday.
Right on.
Yeah, that's how I like to do it.
You know, when I first started podcasting, I noticed that my listens and my stats just took a huge dive over the weekend because so many people only had internet access at work.
Oh.
Back in 2006.
Mm-hmm. That's where I listened to most of the CD-ROM was at work.
Good.
Yeah.
There's a song called "Take Stuff from Work," and in the end, he brags about all the things he steals from work, and at the end, he says, "I wrote this at work. They're paying me to write about stuff I steal from them. Life is good."
Yeah, I used to work at Sonic, and I'd have to come in at 5:30 every morning and make onion rings, and so I would always have like a book on tape or whatever, audio book on my iPod back then.
Working at Sonic.
Yeah.
I am fortunate in that I've never worked food service.
So I did that for 10 years.
Wow. At Sonic or different places?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
No, Sonic, different stores. I would hop around to different stores. But,
Damn.
yeah, I learned a lot about poverty and poor people at Sonic.
Yeah, you probably also learn about people who don't really know much about nutrition. Don't understand what they're doing when they eat at Sonic every day.
Yeah, me being one of them.
Oh, yeah? You seem to have made it through okay.
Yeah, dude,
You look pretty fit.
Well, I've learned since, but I mean, I started working there when I was 16. I worked there until I was like 26, and I was pretty broke, making at one time like $5.50 an hour. So I did Sonic mostly every day. And my roommate worked at KFC, so it either be Sonic or KFC.
Woo!
Yeah. Drink a lot of. We would drink Mickey's after work.
Mickey's Big Mouth. I remember those.
Mm-hmm.
Been a
I'd
while.
get the 40. I'd just say, get 40 before the store closed. Everybody was down to buy minors alcohol back then too. So.
Yeah, I remember the day I turned 21, walking into the liquor store where I'd been buying beer and other things for years and saying, "Hey, it's my 21st birthday." Thought I'd come in and give you some of my legal money. And the guy behind the counter didn't want to hear about that.
Yeah, I didn't drink very much during my 20s. I was very focused in school, so it was like pretty much up until I was 21, I was drinking really hard, and then I stopped drinking for like 5 years. I started drinking a little bit, and then I started drinking pretty regularly.
Started drinking a bit more, and maybe a bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, I drank consistently through my 20s. Consistently a lot. The only exception being, actually, no, I took like the first 5 years of my 20s, I was drinking hard, but then like 25 to 30 or 24 to 29, something, I was dry for like 10 years. Didn't drink any alcohol, or maybe 5 years. Sorry, 5 years. Hey, look, it's Kenny.
Yeah. Say that again?
I said it's Kenny from South Park.
Oh.
Didn't mean to draw Kenny.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I see him now.
All right.
Yep. I really noticed a difference, though, when I didn't drink. I feel like. So,
Yeah. I mean, no great revelation here, but drinking is bad for you.
It doesn't make you feel good afterwards.
But it sure makes you a chatterbox in the moment, which is, I guess, is what people like about it.
Yeah.
Apparently that's the main advantage of cocaine as well. Never had any use for that stuff.
Well, good. It's that stuff's bad for you too, man.
Oh my goodness. That's like bad for you while you're on it, you know? It's not like the bad side creeps up after years. It's like 2 minutes into your first bump, you've discovered your inner asshole.
Yeah, or it turns someone into like a straight weirdo.
Mostly what I've noticed is it turns people with money into broke people.
Yeah.
Although P.J. O'Rourke wrote a hilarious piece about cocaine, about how it's really bad for you, but there are certain people who can take it and suffer no ill effects, and basically anybody you want to have sex with, anybody who is in a position of authority who can benefit your career. Cocaine does no harm whatsoever to these people. You can give them as much as you want. It's only good for them.
Yeah. Right. I don't know. It's always hard for me to believe like people who start to do it in like their mid-30s or when they're already successful. I mean, to me, it's something like people do when they're young.
To me, it's something that people I don't like do. And even if I liked them when they started, I don't like them by the time they're into it.
Good point.
No, I was at this party in really pretty close to Wall Street in Manhattan one evening, and made friends with a couple guys at the party. And it turned out they lived in the same building, and their place was just upstairs, and they invited me and Olga to go up and just hang out with them. And it was a very nice place, and we're hanging out and talking, drinking, and then they bring out the cocaine, and I didn't want any, and they didn't believe it. They didn't believe that cocaine was not my thing. They were very put out by my refusal to accept their generosity.
Yeah, I could see that.
But yep, definitely not my thing.
Yeah, I mean, I that would be me too. No, thank you. But yeah, imagine when people are on it and you're like the sober guy, they probably think, oh, this guy, he doesn't trust us, or it makes people paranoid as it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and if they offer and you refuse, you're kind of the killjoy, and it's also an implied criticism of them for doing it.
Yep. True. It almost looks like Michonne.
Oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I didn't really have a plan in mind when I started this. Let's see. Michonne. Yeah, I remember.
Back when
What's that?
Back when The Walking Dead was good, when they first introduced Michonne.
Oh, that was amazing. When she shows up and with her two zombies in tow on leashes or on chains, and she saved Andrea.
Mm-hmm.
Who later got so annoying she had to be killed off. Even though the character was still alive in the comic, the TV version was so annoying. She got that way in the Woodbury arc. Like she went into that season a likable character, and by the end of it, she was so annoying they had to kill her off.
Yeah, she ended up hooking up with the governor.
Yeah, and then they brought in a made-up character, Sasha, to do what the Andrea of the comics was still around to do in the comics, which is to be the excellent sharpshooter. So they brought in what's his name?
Tyrese.
Tyrese, right? And they gave Tyrese a sister, Sasha.
Yes. Man, Tyrese is badass with that hammer, though, man.
Tyrese from the comics was badass. Tyrese in the show was kind of a softie. The Chad Coleman character. And I like Chad Coleman a lot.
I thought he was awesome. Yeah.
I was certainly sad when he died.
Remember, one time? Yeah. The one time he was surrounded by, a bunch of zombies there at the cabin, and he just has his hammer. You think he's done for, man. He, just went berserk on him.
Yeah, that was adapted from the comics. There was he got locked in a room at the prison with a bunch of zombies, and everybody just assumed he was dead. And they went in a day or so later, and there he is, hammer in hand, and a bunch of unanimated corpses around him. He had made it through. But then his sister, who outlived him on the show, she got a job offer to go do Star Trek Discovery, so they had to kill her off too.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, Shaniqua Martin Green. She plays Michael Burnham on Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah, I mentioned in the chat that they're filming the Fear of the Walking Dead just down the street from my house.
I don't know where that show's gone in recent years. I watched the first 3 seasons, I think. And it changed dramatically over those 3 seasons. The show reinvented itself repeatedly.
Yeah, I noticed that.
They started in L.A.
Moved geographies.
Yeah, it started in L.A., then they were down in Mexico, and then they were in some California high desert area with the white supremacists.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
Yeah, there's an old rock quarry where they've been filming. They were filming early this morning.
So Morgan from The Walking Dead, he's still in that show, I think. He's still
He's
in.
like the lead character,
Is he? Okay.
pretty much.
Well, they went through a lot of regulars. A lot of regular characters died.
We hardly ever see the what was her name? She was on that show, The 100. I forgot her character's name. The sister,
Alicia,
Alicia. Yep,
she's still alive?
she is. Yeah, but we see her just like once every other episode or something. It's
Huh.
like maybe she's demanding a lot of money. I'm not sure.
And the same season where they brought on Morgan, there was a guy who was like a trick shooter, sharpshooter, like a fast draw, novelty party show guy.
Yeah, he was on something else where he played an alcoholic. I forgot what show that was.
He's been on a bunch of stuff. I can't bring the actor's name to mind, but yeah, he's done a bunch of TV.
Yeah, he's a good character. I like him.
So he's still around?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's like a new bad guy that's kind of running things, and everybody's.
Do you think they could do one of those shows without a bad guy? Because that was really the problem with The Walking Dead. Was just it's so repetitious. It's like find new bad guy, lose to new bad guy for a while, finally get it together to beat new bad guy, introduce new bad guy.
Yeah, but if there were no bad guys, the zombies would be boring too. Just like every day they're in another situation where they're trying to escape zombies.
Well, the zombies don't have to be, the only danger. It's just the whole, well, we beat the local bad guy, but now there's a new one. Let's do it all over again. It's kind of got tedious. But in all fairness, the comic did that. They were following the comic. That was a problem with the comic, was that it was, it had this tight little formula that it just repeated over and over again.
Yeah, I never read the comic.
Superior to the TV show in a lot of ways. I should look at the chat. I haven't even had it on screen in a very long time. Let's see. Who have I been ignoring? Synchronium24 and DD Wonders. Sorry about that. Oh, Dryland Fish is here. DD Wonders is went away and came back. Love the colors on this drawing. That's from 1555, which is just a few minutes ago. Hey, it's past 4. It's time for my 7th inning stretch. So I'll leave the chat up here for a minute. Actually, I'll put it back on the other screen. All right. Be right back with y'all.
I'm
Paul?
gonna take a break. Jump on my work break.
Okay, sounds good.
I'm gonna step outside.
All right, I'm back. Back to drawing.
I'm back to
Awesome. All right.
I have to do a weekly report and detail what I did during the week, which is fun.
So how accurate is that report generally?
Well, it's funny. There's actually two reports. There's one report which is a table, and I'm supposed to assign my time to the different projects in increments of 15 minutes. And then I have to write a report at the end of the week that kind of, in words, talks about what it is that I did. But the whole time I'm online, I'm on Teams, and Teams has a little green checkbox that shows that my mouse is moving.
So what do you do about that? I mean, how do you manage that?
Well, when your mouse is idle, there's a orange circle that goes on your icon in Teams. So if anybody's looking, they know that you're not working. And so, maybe I can have Abby push my mouse around. Or, I mean, most of the time I just work. But there's several layers of control that they've built into this since we're working from home.
Yeah, when I first started getting interested in the topic of workplace surveillance, there are freelancing websites that track the like the mouse movements and keyboard activity and things like that. And sometimes, like somebody who's a proofreader, the time they spend actually reading the document that they're proofreading doesn't count as work according to the metrics that they're not an employer, but the employment agency or the freelancing agency use to report your activity to your, the person who hired you, to your client. So one of the people in this article was a woman, she was a proofreader, and she would go off the clock in order to actually do the proofreading part of the job. Because when she was reading the text, she wasn't typing and she wasn't moving the mouse much, and the tracking metrics saw that as her just slacking off. So rather than have it, take a beating on her metrics, she would just do the thing that she was supposed to get paid to do off the clock. Basically stealing from herself in order to make her metrics look good.
Yeah. I definitely saw that kind of behavior at Sonic, because I was a manager for a time and we had to meet a labor quota, like it had to be below a 22% labor. So all sales, only 22% could go to labor. And if you kept, missing your mark, they would eventually fire you. And so it, prompted me to clock out a lot of times and just keep working for free.
Yep.
And that kind of thing happens a lot. But
and the companies know you're doing it.
Oh yeah, no, they realize that's part of why they have such high demands, because their employees will do what they have to meet them.
So when I was working at Comcast in customer service, as soon as your shift starts, like you sit down at your desk and you log in, the calls start coming immediately. But it takes about 15 minutes really to get your workspace set up and have all your tools ready and just be ready to go. So people typically showed up 15 minutes before their scheduled shift and started getting ready for their shift. And this is time that isn't paid. And the company found out about it, and one part of the company didn't want people doing that. So there was a rule, like you couldn't be seated at your workplace until 5 minutes before your shift was supposed to start. And so, everybody's productivity took a hit right off the bat because then you had to spend time getting set up and you weren't able to take calls even after your shift had started. And, that's how it should be. You should be getting paid for all the time that you're there working, even if part of the work isn't easy to quantify. But, so basically they told everybody, stop working for free, only work on the clock. But there are certain things you can't do on the clock. And so, when the employees all started to abide by that, well, then their performance took a hit. And then clearly the pressure was on the managers to get everybody to return to working off the clock, but do it in a way that doesn't show up. Like basically it was the managers, the local like team leads and group managers who were responsible for getting the employees to get, back to working off the clock. It was a very gross situation.
Yeah. Two things come to mind. So one is like, oh shit, hold on. Okay, well, one is like talking about time, and it's like, okay, if I'm an employee and I'm thinking about work or I'm thinking about how to make my job efficient, that time is never really accounted for, and that that happens quite a bit. So I mean, maybe I am working 40 hours, but maybe I'm mowing the lawn or something, and also thinking about a solution to something. Well, that time it's accounted for, but it's an important piece of it. And then the second thing I was thinking about is like, if there was ever like a labor violation at work, having to freaking call the OSHA board or the labor relations board that's on there, it would send me to like a an answering machine, and then I'd leave a message, nobody ever call you back type of thing. So there wasn't really a way to complain about it either.
Yes, your complaints all go to a voicemail inbox that nobody ever checks and has long since been full.
Yep. I remember they were making us come into work for these stupid meetings, and then they would be like early on a Saturday morning. We'd have to come to these stupid Sonic meetings, and they wouldn't let anybody clock in. They were doing that kind of thing, and then they would do stuff like, we're closing up for the night, and they have to run their reports to finish up the paperwork and sync the final numbers or whatever. And they say, okay, I'm going to clock you out, and then I'm going to just add time to your, to your account or whatever it is. And then they wouldn't do it.
One of my first jobs, I was still a teenager, still in high school. I worked at an art supply store, and I got paid, from the time the store opened to the time it closed, but I had to get there well before opening time, to set up, and I had to, close out the register, count out the money, fill out reports, take the money to a drop box, and I didn't get paid for any of that because it all took place after the time the store was closed. I learned very early on. Your time is their time, but not vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening here? Oh, I see what's happening. I had the wrong tool selected. So, dryland fish. Chiming into something that we were talking about a while ago. In its later stages, I found The Walking Dead to be insufferable misfortune porn. Yeah. And need to step outside signal range later. Oh, bye, dryland fish. All right. This has been the least populated stream of the week. It's Friday afternoon.
No one to blame but me.
Well, also me, I donated blood yesterday, and it took a lot longer than I thought it would, so I didn't make it back in time to do a stream. So this is my first day back after a day off. You know, at first I saw this guy wearing a hood, but now I think these are his fingers, like wrapping around his head. So we're gonna get rid of all that stuff. What were you saying?
So, way to point out my shortcomings.
I'm sorry, you said something about pouring out your shortcomings?
It's a way to point out my shortcomings.
Yours?
Oh, yeah.
I don't understand.
That was a joke, man. Never mind.
Okay, well, it's a joke I didn't grok. Did you ever read Stranger in a Strange Land?
Oh.
Nope. That's where the word grok comes from that novel.
What is that novel?
It's a science fiction novel by Robert Heinlein about a young man who is raised on Mars by Martians, and he returns to Earth, and he's very naive, but he also has like psychic powers, and he becomes a kind of a cult figure, cult leader. A very benevolent cult leader, but still a cult leader.
Interesting. I heard that phrase sounds familiar. Like, I think it's on the. Is it on the C-Realm?
What's
Or
that?
no? What? The extra environmentalists, I think. As strangers in their own land, isn't it like?
Well, I think that comes from a Terence McKenna quote. You know, they always open that show with a quote from McKenna where he's saying, "We don't want to be British or Americans or Germans. We want to be extra environmentalists. You know, we want to be the outsider looking in."
That's what it is. Yeah, and that was the name of the book.
No, the name of the book is Stranger in a Strange Land.
Oh, okay. Wow. For some reason, I thought that was the same thing.
So, you know, Stranger in a Strange Land, I don't know if Heinlein invented the phrase. I certainly hear it referenced by people who I suspect haven't read the book. But Robert Heinlein invented the waterbed in that novel. Let's see. Hey, it's 4:20. Off.
Hey, Camo, man, it's been great talking with you. I got to send off these reports and kind of shut down for the afternoon.
Alrighty. Well, it was good talking to you. See you later.
Yeah, later.
All right, the Zoom call is over. Cannot draw on a hidden layer. Let's try a new layer then. How about that? All right. So, looks like a few people are still watching, but nobody's in the chat. So, I've never gotten a copyright warning for this. Alexa, flash briefing.
KMO, here are more flash briefing stories for your afternoon. From BBC World Service.
Welcome to News Hour from the BBC World Service. I'm Julian Marshall. U.S. Democrats condemn Mr. Trump's attempt to alter the vote in Michigan state as he tries to reverse his defeat in the election.
No state legislature in our country's history ever has done what Donald Trump is apparently agitating for the Michigan state legislature to do.
The UN Secretary General warns that Yemen is on the brink of the worst famine the world has seen in decades.
Yemenis aren't starving, they're being starved by the conflict. Unless we get more aid into the country, we have to say we are sounding the alarm.
And nearly 40 killed in Uganda's capital Kampala ahead of presidential elections in January.
I've seen many young people with bullet wounds. The streets have been taken over by the army and the police, and some of the towns are in a state of war.
That's all coming up after the latest news.
Hello, I'm David Harper with the BBC News. The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has warned that millions of Yemenis are at risk of starvation in what could be the worst famine the world has seen in decades. He said immediate action was needed to stave off catastrophe. Mr. Guterres blamed the situation on Yemen's continuing war. Sultana Begum of the Norwegian Refugee Council in Yemen said the coronavirus pandemic had deepened the crisis.
Yemen is what we're calling in a perfect storm. We've had years of devastating war. In a situation where the country needs an end to the fighting, an injection of aid, instead, what we're seeing on a daily basis is that the conflict is escalating. More and more people are being displaced and pushed into terrible living conditions. There's severe economic crisis, and this is all happening in the middle of a deadly pandemic.
The American swing state of Georgia says it's to certify that Joe Biden won the presidential election there after a vote-by-vote recount. Mr. Trump still hopes to use legal loopholes to get Republican legislatures to reverse Joe Biden's victories in their states. But the senior senator from Michigan, who's meeting Mr. Trump today, has previously said they won't do this. A lawyer for Joe Biden, Bob Bauer, said Mr. Trump's moves to reverse his defeat in Michigan would not succeed. Tara McKelvey reports.
Unofficial results show that Mr. Biden won in the state of Michigan, but Mr. Trump has questioned the integrity of the electoral process. He invited Michigan officials to the White House on Friday, and critics of the president say that this is part of the president's efforts to convince the officials that they should overturn the state results. Bob Bauer, the senior election lawyer for Mr. Biden, said that the president's efforts to pressure state officials in this way are outrageous and an abuse of power, but that the president's efforts would fail.
Anti-racism protests are being staged in the Brazilian city of Porto Alegre following the brutal killing of a black man by two white security guards outside a supermarket. The case, with echoes of the murder of George Floyd in the United States in May, has caused outrage as it happened on the eve of Black Consciousness Day. The death of the 40-year-old welder and community leader João Alberto Silveira Freitas on Thursday was caught on video. Saudi Arabia has rejected calls from human rights groups for the release of detained activists in the run-up to this weekend's G20 summit, which the kingdom is hosting. The Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Adil Al-Jubeir, said his country wouldn't allow people to lecture it. Human rights organisations had called for a boycott of the gathering, which is now being held virtually. The fiancé of the murdered journalist Jamal Khashoggi has appealed to those attending to hold Saudi Arabia account for his killing. He was dismembered in the kingdom's consulate in Istanbul. BBC News. The German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier has marked the 75th anniversary of the Nuremberg trials by encouraging the United States to return to the model for international criminal justice that the trials created. President Steinmeier lamented that under President Trump, Washington had worked against the International Criminal Court in The Hague. He said there were increasing challenges to international justice.
In den vergangenen 2 Jahrzehnten During the last 2 decades, we have not seen the hopes that the rule of law would be strengthened in international relations fulfilled. Old and new powers have started competing. Internationally binding norms are regarded as a limitation on a state's own power.
Mr. Steinmeier said without Nuremberg, warlords would not be prosecuted and genocide would not be punished as a crime. The Ethiopian government says the military has made advances in the northern Tigray region, where it's fighting troops loyal to the regional government. With phone and internet lines cut, it has not been possible to verify the report that the historical city of Aksum and Adwa town were now under the control of the federal government. Spain says it will establish tented camps across 3 of its Canary Islands to shelter migrants believed to have little claim to asylum. Migration Minister José Luis Escrivá said the property for the accommodation will be lent by the military, town councils and private companies to house about 7,000 people and relieve a temporary facility. The acclaimed Welsh writer and historian Jan Morris has died aged 94. She was perhaps best known for 2 things, covering the first ascent of Everest for the Times, and in 1972 undergoing gender reassignment surgery in Morocco and transitioning from James to Jan, a process she wrote about in Conundrum. Jan Morris said her transition didn't change her writing in the slightest. Interviewed in her 90s, she said she now thought of herself as both a man and woman. BBC News.
In NPR News.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. In the final weeks of his presidency, Donald Trump is focusing on prescription drug prices. Moments ago, he announced 2 new rules aimed at lowering costs. One ties payments for drugs administered in a doctor's office to lower prices paid overseas. The second requires that pharmaceutical company rebates for pharmacy medications that Medicare covers go directly to patients.
The first action will save American seniors billions of dollars by preventing middlemen, famous middlemen they call them, from ripping off Medicare patients with high prescription prices.
It remains to be seen if the new rules will remain in place once President-elect Joe Biden takes office. So far, Biden's team is getting no formal cooperation from the Trump administration. Johannes Abraham, who heads the transition team, says the holdup jeopardizes the country's ability to get through a health crisis that has so far claimed more than 250,000 lives and caused widespread financial carnage to the U.S. economy.
Yesterday, numerous business leaders and groups released statements calling for the transition process to move forward, including the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Black Chamber of Commerce, the Business Roundtable, the National Association of Manufacturers, Small Business for America's Future, and other leading business leaders.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says Democrats are considering taking steps to ensure a smooth presidential transition. We have details from NPR's Kelsey Snell.
Speaker Pelosi says the continued delay of the official transition process is, quote, mystifying. She says she sees an expanded role for House Democrats if the Trump administration continues to block the transition.
I'm not one to show my hand, but nonetheless, we're ready. We're ready.
Pelosi says Democrats have asked for a briefing on the situation from the General Services Administration, the federal agency in charge of signaling the start of the transition. The GSA must formally ascertain the winner of the election in order for official briefings and federal transition funding to begin. Kelsey Snell, NPR News, Washington.
Now to Canada, where Dan Karpenchuk reports the border will remain shut for at least another month because of the pandemic.
Extensions of the border shutdown for non-essential travel have happened every month since it was closed in March. Now Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says the latest extension will be until December 21st. The announcement comes as the country's chief public health officer, Dr. Theresa Tam, says the second wave of the pandemic is far worse than the first. And in December, Canada could see upwards of 60,000 new cases of COVID-19 a day. Tam says the situation is urgent, with the epidemic growing at a rapid pace, 15% more this week over last. Health experts estimate that unless Canadians reduce their number of contacts, there will be at the end of this month more than 366,000 cases across Canada. For NPR News, I'm Dan Karpenchuk in Toronto.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 147 points, or roughly 0.5% since the open at 29,335. This is NPR. India has surpassed 9 million confirmed cases of coronavirus. We have details from NPR's Lauren Freyer.
India is now the second country in the world to pass that 9 million mark. The U.S. crossed it last month and is now reported nearly 12 million total cases. India had been where the virus was spreading fastest, and it looked likely to overtake the US as the most affected country. But India's daily tallies have now been declining for weeks. About 46,000 new infections were confirmed Friday, compared to double that most days in September. Some scientists have questioned the breadth of India's testing and reliability of its kits. The capital, New Delhi, remains a hotspot. Authorities there have quadrupled fines for people who don't wear masks in public. But most markets, restaurants, and some schools have reopened nationwide as India tries to revive its economy. Lauren Freyer, NPR News.
In the capital of Belarus, thousands of people turned out for the funeral of a protester who was arrested during anti-government protests last week. Opposition activists say they believe officers in civilian clothing detained Roman Bondarenka, forced him into a police van, and beat him badly enough that he died the next day of head injuries. Police deny the allegations. Georgia is poised to formally certify President-elect Joe Biden received more votes than President Donald Trump. Took a recount by hand of about 5 million votes and an audit to confirm that the Biden camp had been arguing that it did win. For the first time in decades, Georgia turned blue. The current president is still not conceding. This is NPR News.
This message comes from NPR sponsor Merrill. Merrill Edge Self-Directed Investing offers timely insights to help you find answers, like how are your investments doing? Get started at merrilledge.com/withinreach. Merrill Lynch, Pierce, Finner & Smith Incorporated, registered broker-dealer, member SIPC.
From Al Jazeera.
This is Al Jazeera. These are the top stories. Azerbaijan's army says it's entered Agdam, a district that's been under Armenian control for almost 30 years. Armenia is handing it over as part of a ceasefire deal to end weeks of fighting over Nagorno-Karabakh. Osama Ben Javed has more from near Agdam.
Azeri forces have moved into Agdam, the second ghost town, an area which is almost the size of Nagorno-Karabakh that is being handed over. So around Nagorno-Karabakh, there were 7 regions. 3 of them under this deal are going to be handed back over to the Azerbaijani military. The Russian peacekeepers are going to be there, and one of the generals of the Azeri army has told us that they are going to make sure that there are no fighters left in these areas as they are handed over.
U.S. President-elect Joe Biden has been confirmed as the official winner in the state of Georgia after a hand recount. President Trump still refuses to recognize Biden's victory, a move that Biden says is totally irresponsible. Police in South Africa have fired tear gas at protesters outside a high school. The demonstrators accuse it of racism against black pupils. The Cape Town school allegedly held a graduation event that was only attended by white students. Amanda Miller has more from the protests in Cape Town.
It is quite tense here at the moment. The crowd has grown through the course of the morning. These are members of the Economic Freedom Fighters, an opposition party here in South Africa. People here say they're angry about what happened at Brackenfell High School. Now, this is a high school in Cape Town where they had organized a end-of-year function for final year students because the official function had been cancelled due to COVID regulations. The separate function was organized, and there are black students at the school who allege that it was organized on racial grounds and that all non-white students at the school, or at least in final year, were not part of that function, nor were they welcome.
The warring parties in Ethiopia's Tigray region have exchanged rocket fire, with both sides accusing each other of putting civilians in danger. The UN has warned of a humanitarian crisis and says more than 2 million young people need aid.
In weather. Currently, in Bellows Falls, it's 52 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly cloudy skies. Tonight, you can expect clouds with a low of 36 degrees. That's all for your flash briefing.
Oh, computer's bogging down. I've asked it to do too many things at once. Let's close Photoshop. That'll help. Close. No. All right, let's see if that helps. Really, it's pretty silly that I even had Photoshop open. I wasn't doing anything with it. And it's very resource intensive, so it's good that it's closed now. No. How do we get out of this? Again. Hey, Rodney's here. What's up, Rodney? All right, there it is. What's coming to Fresco? I should not examine that now. Let's see. $1,600 by $1,200. Huge. All right. Now I'm just going to draw in black. What's that? Hey, Ed's here. Ed, did you catch any of the stuff earlier? I had a fellow Kunukastani on here talking about his desire to set up an intentional community of some sort. And also had Paul from Texas join into that conversation on Zoom. Kamo, hello. Yes, I caught some of the stuff earlier. Quality stuff. Right on. It had a nice flow and rhythm and conviviality to it. Well, any day where you have the choice, the chance to work in the use of the word conviviality is time well spent. It's a day well lived. Something bad's happening here, let me tell you. In this image, this is not a wholesome image. This is badness. I got onto a ladder and cleaned windows with a squeegee. Oh, nice. And clean the car, huh? Man, you've had a productive day. Did you accumulate it all today? Did you do any door dashing? I'm preparing to do some major door dashing in the next few minutes. All right. Dash hard. I'm about out of groceries. I'm pretty hungry, so I could go for a DoorDash right now, but we don't have that around here. So I will need to go out and find some food. No, wrong. I will go to that older industrial town 30 minutes west of me. I hope that you can find pizza with cauliflower crust. Oh, I wish. If I could easily get pizza with cauliflower crust, I would be back on keto lickety split. Please consider Dia Foods frozen pizza out of Vancouver. What shall I consider them? They may be orderable online, as in deliverable to my place. I kind of doubt that. Frozen pizza through the mail? Seems like a stretch. Oh, boy. Oh, yawn, yawn, yawn. You know, Ed, I'm glad you revealed yourself here at the end, because I might have ducked out a few minutes early had you not. It is dark here. It feels like it's nighttime. And I just want to shift into my nighttime routine. No, I don't want to do that. But I didn't, because you were here to keep me honest. Alrighty. There we go. I will always be here for you no matter what. Come hell or high water, you can count on me. I am a believer in the cause. Thank you, Ed. I appreciate that. But hey, look, it is 5 p.m. So there is nobody else in the chat for you to continue with after I close out the stream. So dash hard. Dash, dash, dash. And I will talk to you on Monday. See you later. Yes, Mocha. Just get your